Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings. The music went off for some reason. I don't know why. Every once in a while, it does that.
I was scared.
Ah, I think Siri will come on my phone, and for some reason that cancels out the music. I don't know why that happens, but Siri just decided she wanted to pop up and say, "Hey, do you need any help?" Well, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we're having a brief space tonight to discuss an issue that popped up. Um, That's very interesting, very of much concern. Should immigrants be allowed to change the culture of the host country? Now, I've traveled a good bit of places, not as much as Wani. Wani would probably have better insight on this than me, but I have pretty good insight on cultures when you travel outside of the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, as most of you know, when you travel outside the United States of America, what's the old saying? When in Rome, act as a Roman. You have to adhere to societal norms. It's just, common sense. When you go in somebody's house, some houses, you got to take your damn shoes off, right? In some countries, you got to act how they act. I remember when me and the old lady last time we went to West Africa, we had a training course on how she should walk behind me because men are viewed to be the leaders. And if some of the people in the villages saw my lady leading me around, it would be perceived as weakness and make us a target, right? So we had to adhere to social norms. I had a friend who was stationed. He was a Marine, and he was stationed in Singapore. And in Singapore, you're not allowed to spit on the street because the Singapore people believe that spit has your spit and vomit and bodily fluid has evil spirits in it, and it cannot touch their streets. And he was telling me that every once in a while a sailor or a marine gets drunk and will throw up, as drunk people tend to do sometimes, and they end up going to jail. That's the rules in Singapore, right? So every country I've been to has had their rules, and you don't fucking break them. A couple of Americans have learned that the hard way in Dubai. You remember the lady, the FBA woman who was a trucker, went to Dubai and started doing like a what do you call it? Posing for the gram with a bathing suit or something on. Somebody caught her doing it and arrested her. That's called common sense. You don't go change the culture of the country that you're visiting. It don't matter if I should become a citizen of Saudi Arabia. I can't walk around with a fifth of Jack Daniels. That's not okay. I'll go to jail. That's their rules. They're up under Sharia law, which is Islamic law. I may not be Muslim. I was raised Baptist, but that don't mean anything because guess where I am? I'm in Saudi Arabia, right? So, given this common sense fact of life, why do immigrants come over here and try to change our culture? I was talking to Wani a while back, and Wani, weren't you telling me in California you see a lot of people walking around in burqas that'll frown at young ladies walking around California in bikinis?
Yes, it's a very strange mix where they're on the beach angry and grimacing at people that are walking around on the beach in shorts and bikinis and leering at people if they wear, an itsy bitsy teeny weeny bikini. They don't like it. And they walk around, and I forget the name of this outfit. Besides a burqa, we had some monks walking down the street, and they were Asian, and they had on the orange tunic type outfit. You've seen it on pictures. We have all kinds of people. I think they're visiting, and they wear their traditional outfits that they've been wearing for thousands of years. But they're not just wearing the outfit, they're very upset and, grimaced up. They even, snarl at me for probably several reasons. My arms are bare, my knees are showing. I'm black. They probably have several reasons but they look at my body parts. These are actually women that did this. They leer at your arms. And it's like, ma'am, you're at the beach in a hot place sitting at Starbucks and you want everyone to be dressed like you. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, yeah. That's an issue. Why the question of tonight is why does that go on? Why in America do we let people come to our country and try to change our culture around? How does that work? How do you get to come over here and tell us what to do? How do you get to become a guest at a historically black college and have an Africa takeover day? I double dare FBA students to go to University of Ghana and have a Harlem or Memphis takeover day. They'll go to jail. So how does that work?
I used to think that part of the attitude is that there's a perception that we don't have a culture because we're a younger country. But they actually do this bad behavior in countries that are, thousands of years old. Countries that do have a long culture, they're doing that too. So they're up in Sweden, leering at those women when they're walking around in the few months of warmth that they get because they're mostly covered up because of it's in the north. Um, they're actually doing that leering and raping and all the other stuff that they're doing. So they don't, it's not just because we're American and they think it's a free for all and everybody can do whatever they want. I thought that they were doing it because of that, but I don't believe that that's why they're doing it. They really are just not home trained. They really think at some point they're going to install Sharia law. They have not stopped trying to invade since the 7th century when they went and basically spread Islam everywhere at the point of a sword. So the Arabs still have that takeover spirit and they have been mumbling about installing Sharia law over in parts of Europe and they're just doing it right in front of the Europeans like it's not even funny. However, the Africans, they have the same takeover spirit. They're not trying to spread a religion, but they do have the attitude of, I'm going to come over to the HBCU and I'm going to take it over. I also remember something funny where there was a Haitian person saying we should cook Haitian food at this cordon bleu cooking school. And I said, but I thought you said that we were already eating Haitian food because Louisiana is Haitian food according to them. So that just popped into my mind. But yeah, they come over and start making demands. You're in another country at a cooking school, but you're going to tell this cooking school what to cook? It doesn't make any sense. I wouldn't even dream to do that, and I'm in America. I wouldn't go to a cooking school and say, I think we should all cook soul food. Well, no, we're going to cook what you're going to tell us to cook. And if I want to go cook soul food, I can go to a specialty school or I can just cook it and mind my own business. So I'm not quite sure why that is happening other than just a lack of home training and basic manners.
Well, I think I have my own theory, and again, I'm not the arbiter of truth. I'm just a scholar that makes analysis. My analysis on that, Wani, is the dominant society. As you pointed out before, Wani, the dominant society gives up its identity, or gives up their identity rather, to amalgamate into whiteness. Years ago, when I studied up north, members at my dorm room were mostly European. And I was shocked being a big old country boy from Alabama. I said something. We had a party in the dorm in Elliott, and I made some comment of you white people or something, you white folk, da da da, and they were like, "What do you mean white? I'm Italian. I'm German. I'm English." They didn't know what, and this is in the early 2000s. They didn't know what white was, and I realized it dawned on me right then that Europeans have their own separate, distinct cultures in Europe. But when they come over here, the power game is to amalgamate, to team up against foundational Black Americans in diametric opposition. That's the term of the year. Diametric opposition against us. They know how to Voltron up against us. And to do that, they collectively become something called white. Dr. Claude Anderson talks about that, or talked about that ad nauseum. I think about um, early in my high school career in the late night in '99, taking a history, American history, from the only black teacher at this PWI high school I went to, and there were a large Birmingham has a large population of Lebanese people. And I remember one day a Lebanese young man in my classroom said, my granddaddy, he got up and said, we were talking about civil rights, and my granddaddy had slaves, and my FBA teacher shut his ass down and said, you're Lebanese, you didn't have slaves. That taught me back then that the name of the game is to come over here and just erase your own history and amalgamate into whiteness. So my theory, Wani and associates, is given the fact the dominant society gives up its identity to amalgamate into whiteness, the identity is flimsy over here. Therefore, people that come over here with the cultural identity that they're not really willing to abandon try to impose it on other people. But shouldn't we, foundational Black Americans, um, push back on that? We've been too nice. What do you think?
Yep, we should push back on it. I mean, that's what we're doing. That's why everybody's been out of shape.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to keep getting bent out of shape because we're not stopping. Point blank, period. We're just getting started. We're in full swing right now, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's like a train. It's gone.
Yeah,
It is gone. We can't put the toothpaste back in the tube at this point.
that's true. The cat's out the bag. But I guess my argument is back in the day, I think we were too nice, too accommodating to other cultures. If you think about it, think about this for a moment. And I know this is systematic. Other other cultures have been allowed to predatorily infiltrate our neighborhoods and take over, the gas stations, the beauty salon, I mean, not the beauty salons, the beauty supply shops, the food to a certain extent, and they superimpose their culture on foundational Black Americans. There should be some nonviolent pushback. There should have been, not there is now, but there should have been some type of nonviolent pushback. Like, no, no, no. If you're coming to my neighborhood, you have to get to my cultural norms. That's the name of the game, is cultural norms. And other groups, for whatever reason, don't respect cultural norms. Our brother Mark Carter used to say they have a takeover spirit. And I'm just now starting to see this takeover spirit of you're gonna do what I do. Wonder why they think they can do that.
I'm not sure because they act like this is not a Christian leaning country. And it is, even if you're not Christian, like I'm not going around saying I'm Christian, but I have a Christian culture. That means I like Easter, Christmas, and whatever else. I understand that those are seasonal holidays, and celebrate them as seasonal holidays, not religious holidays. I do it my own way. But I still like to celebrate seasons because I think that's nice. It breaks up the year, and it's a very old tradition. I understand that most of the holidays that we celebrate are pagan based and, changed into Christian holidays. I understand that. And I'm, satisfied with it. But these people are they don't want us to say Merry Christmas. They are saying that we're being offensive. At some point, they're going to start saying that the flag is offensive to us. And they've already said, I've already been around immigrants because I used to help to Americanize their websites. And I remember driving down the street going to a meeting, and one of these guys seemed shocked at the size of a church. He felt that the church was too large and pointy. And he just looked like he was being struck by the size of this building. He didn't like the church. He felt it was offensive to him. And I'm like, what do you expect us to do? Get rid of the churches? Stop talking about our holidays? They really believe they should be accommodated. And that's because the United States of America has accommodated people. They have, I'm surprised that, all of the languages that they've tried to accommodate, nobody else is doing that. Unless you live in a country with borders of different people speaking different languages on your border, yeah. If you live in Italy, sure, you're going to find people speaking French nearby. You're going to find people speaking languages that are kind of a blend like you find in Monaco. Sure, you're going to see that. But if you don't live on a border, which we don't, we're not supposed to be accommodating Vietnamese languages and all these other languages, but we do. And we set a bad precedent. So people just feel comfortable. They come here, they go find people from their own background that have already previously immigrated here and think they can just ignore everything and do exactly what they want to do. And that's what they've been doing.
Yeah, and I live in Atlanta now. Those of you don't know, and it's a as our brother Tariq said the other day, Atlanta is full of foreigners, and I'm from Birmingham, which basically I'm from Atlanta, what west. That's what Birmingham is. And I remember visiting Atlanta as a child because we all would go to Six Flags. You know what I'm saying? And Atlanta was full of FBAs. Now Atlanta is immigrant central. Back to the point at hand, what I think should be addressed is all the flags that are being flown in the car and on people's houses from other countries. Like if you become American, is it okay to fly a foreign flag? Is that treason? I mean, I don't know everything, but that seems kind of slightly treasonous. What do y'all think about that?
We're just not calling it out. Hey, Seven, what's up? We just need to call these things out. That's all. We just need to call it out. Hey, it's not cool to do some of these things you're doing, be anti-American, and if we don't call it out, they're just going to keep pushing and pushing. So they need to be pushed back, is what I'm seeing. You've got people over in Ireland telling Africans that just sailed up on a raft that they're now Irish. And then they turn around and complain that these Africans are taking over their identity. Well, you're the ones who's plastering an Irish sign on them and making them run in the Olympics. You're doing that. You're calling Somali people Swedish. You're the one who's doing it. You're not saying, hey, you're a Somali. Okay, and you happen to be living in Sweden as a refugee. It's up to the people in the country to make these distinctions. Not they're not going to do it. They're just going to keep bum rushing until the whole thing is Somali living in Sweden, and they'll get you out of the way, drag your women into the bushes and do whatever they want to do to them. They're not going to stop themselves. So it's your country. You must tell them how to act in the country because they don't know. I mean, this is a new kind of immigrant, to be honest,
Yes.
because we've had immigrants before and they didn't act this bad. In fact, most of the immigrants or the small populations of foreigners in countries, because I think there's a small population of, I forget if they're Tibetan, there's something Asian living in Switzerland. They don't do that. They've been there a long time. They came over for some reason, I don't know what it was, and they've been living quietly in Switzerland. Did I say Sweden? Well, it was Switzerland. They've been living quietly in Switzerland, minding their business. They're not running around trying to make everybody do their religion. They're not pushing things down people's throats. They're not walking around saying that they're Swiss. They're not doing that. They understand their own backgrounds. They're not desperate for an identity, and they know how to behave respectfully. It's all about respect. And these people are disrespectful. And that's why we have all the problems that we have with immigrants in all of these
And
countries.
it's such a big problem. I think, Wani, to a certain extent, that's why what you just identified is one of the main reasons why Donald Trump was duly elected by the American people, because he stood for an America first um, policy, and the American people have realized something. I don't know. It's almost like foundational Black Americans are the canary in the coal mine. We always notice stuff first, but everybody's noticing what we notice. If you think back, if any of y'all are old enough, I'm an '80s baby, but if you're my at least my age or older, you remember a time where there were actual morals. We've always had problems, but violence was not this severe in the early '90s. I mean, um, there was some sense of morality and dignity. And what spaces have helped me to realize is immigrants have brought a lot of debaucherous culture. And it was right in the best place. An army sniper once told me the best place to hide stuff is right in front of your face. I didn't realize as a little boy when Luke came out with all those songs that the culture, the American culture, instantly debaucherized behind the filth that he brought over here. But looking back on it, hindsight being 2020, I can remember being a fifth grader, fourth grader, whatever I was, when we discovered girls. And little boys used to dress up like boys to men. We wanted, you remember that? We used to dress up with ties
Yes.
and we used to dance. Oh man, I can't wait to this dance. I can't wait to this. I want to dance with this girl. And I remember after Luke dropped his shit, that's when all that booty shaking and shit came. It came from foreigners. What you think about it, Seven?
First off, good evening to everybody. Good morning. Well, good afternoon, Miss Ma'am and Professor. Hope y'all doing swell.
Yeah, how you
Hope
doing?
y'all enjoyed yourself. I'm doing okay. Just winding down from work. But definitely you hitting it on the head is that we're not acknowledging a lot of the stuff that they try to purposely assimilate into our culture while trying to push out stuff that is embedded within our culture. It's heavy on what you said, just even from the whiteys alone. That topic specifically always tickle me with them because that's one thing that they never learn how to have the proper comprehension to really deal with. When you tell them they white, they want to say, "Oh, I'm Irish. No, I'm Italian." Because when they come here, they're embedded in, they have this mindset to think that anybody who is not black in a sense is going to be above an echelon or just going to be above higher than. So that's why when they come here, they pride themselves into assimilating into whiteness because they then feel like anything that is above person of color, anything that's above blackness, that's why they're so prideful into erasing that same Irish name, that same Italian name. They're wiping it out with the quizdings to make sure they can assimilate into white society to be another Jane and John Doe. It's never anything with pride with them over here. Now, when you go into these other places, this is why when you catch them outside of America, they don't really talk about it as much as they do because they go with a different caste system out in these places. See, being Irish and being Italian outside of America, this is why they weaponize it to say this is supposed to be the poor white. This is the more degenerate white. They don't really take pride in it. This is why when they think that they come over here, that because they have to assimilate and because they have to merge into one, that's what they think saves them, is to say, oh, well, you know what? I don't have to be the Irish person anymore. I don't have to be the Italian anymore. I can just be good old white. I can make myself Jane Doe. I can make myself John Doe. And as long as I assimilate into the system that is perpetrating that anything above person of color and anything above black is going to be a-okay in this book, I'll go ahead and assimilate all day. That's why they have so easy way of doing it because they already have a thing of not even being ethnically prided within themselves when they have to come places like this because there's no pride to really who they are because even themselves have to go through the whole cycle of being weaponized of their whole, of their whole personhood. So you definitely hitting the nail on that. That's why they want to separate themselves. And even talking about the separating of just the whitey folks, sadly, all skin folk and kinfolk. This is why when you hear a lot of people, it makes me think when you spoke on that spot on, it made me think about how when African immigrants get within the workforce specifically, and they like to clarify, like, oh, I'm not Black American, I'm not African American, I'm Nigerian or I'm Haitian, I'm not like them, right? They even try to make themselves distinctive in these type of scenarios because even when they come here, they once again think that being not a quote unquote Black American true at heart, having some type of ancestry here, they think that's going to give them some type of benefit. Once you already say, I'm not like them, and oh, I'm this type of Black person, even them trying to distinct themselves to make it seem like I'm higher than. Because once again, immigrants who usually are coming over here, they have to assimilate into a propaganda that's being pushed to them, making it seem like Black people over here, they're lazy, not doing nothing. This is why we're giving you all this money to come over here, get into these positions that we're making it seem like they're not taking, right? It's a whole thing of propaganda that goes into it. So it's always a thing of always wanting to assimilate, not being prideful, and just always trying to attack what we got going on. And it's crazy that you even talked about removing stuff out of our culture because it's when I even think about stuff like that, it's like y'all never want to be down with us as Black people when it's time to acknowledge stuff. When I even acknowledge the workforce, right? It's like the Crown Act. Y'all don't want to talk about how we have to. This is foundational to us, right? Because y'all not coming into the places where we're at, and people are attacking this, that, and the third. It's just like it's just sad. But I wanted to land here to say how people flying their flags around here. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. It took me when I saw these Mexicans trying to fly their flag over here, but then these the same people burning their flag because they want to talk about, oh, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. Okay, then, so if you don't want to go back, what makes you think we want to make space for you to fly your flag over here, talking about a place that you damned to go back to, right? It's like, why are we making space for something that you're not even prideful in? That's why I said it's like it's just this whole thing of like you want us to kick our shut up, kick our stuff out, make space for your stuff that you don't even want to go back to. Why would I want to make space for something that you don't even take pride in? That's what I'm saying. It's just always a thing of trying to kick us out, making us assimilate into something that they want to have fit for their standard. But I definitely land there. It kills me. Same flag that you want to fly around, you're gonna burn it in front of us and say you don't want to go back. This is what you want us to make space for.
Well, yeah, that's a great point, Seven. Thank you for that contribution. I wanted to hit y'all with a little scholarship to let you know. I know for the last 6 months or so, we've identified Luke and diasporic immigrants as bringing filth, bringing debauchery to the United States. Let me hit you with a little known fact, ladies and gentlemen. Do y'all know that the trend of debauchery coming from foreigners did not start with the diasporic foreigners like Luke and the like? And what's oh my God, in the classroom I saw what's that girl that doesn't even she's not even a legal she's not even a duly American citizen. I was sure Nicki Minaj was an American citizen. She's not even. Somebody back me up. Isn't it true that Nicki Minaj is not an
I
American?
don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think to my
Probably.
knowledge, I think they said she was surviving a long time off of some assimilations with green cards and stuff like that. I think they said it was a good time that she actually wasn't a U.S. citizen.
yeah. I have.
'Cause I think that was the whole thing with her and her husband as to why he had the legal actions that he had going on and why she couldn't help him to her fullest because of the stuff that she had going on. Because I think she wasn't actually legal.
Yeah, I watched her when I was a real young teacher in the inner city schools back in the day in 2000 in 2011. I watched her change some of my students and affect them in a negative light. But back to my original point, it didn't start with the diasporic immigrants. What's not a little known fact is a lot of debauchery came from Ireland. Let's look at Dr. Howard Zinn, A People's History of the United States, page 266 at the bottom. Dr. Zinn says, quote, there were 5.5 million immigrants in the 1880s, 4 million in the 1890s. Dr. Zen says creating a labor surplus that kept wages down. The immigrants were more controllable, more helpless than native workers. They were culturally displaced at odds with one another, therefore useful as strike breakers. Often their children worked, intensifying the problem of an oversized labor force and joblessness. In 1880, there were 1.1 million children under 16 at work in the United States, with everyone working long hours. Families became strangers to one another. A pants presser named Morse Rosenfield wrote a poem, My Boy, which came widely printed. Dr. Zen finally says women immigrants became servants and prostitutes. So a lot of this whole prostitution ring stuff that the 70s kind of rebranded as FBA women standing on the street corner. If you think of a hooker or a prostitute, the image that come to your head is some sister with her hand on her hip on the corner. Nah, nah, nah. Dr. Howard Zinn identifies that the original American prostitute was Irish because they couldn't find work. You see the danger of the press spinning a narrative? It was never us bringing that pimp game over here. It was the Irish and the Italians.
Look at all this stuff that was happening with Jack the Ripper. He was just ripping through all kind of prostitutes. So yeah, they know how to do that.
And you know what? That's even tickling that you saying that, Professor, because I've always stood on the premise that white women would get so degenerate for some beer at a racetrack. It never ceases to amaze me. For some beer, they gonna do anything.
That's cold blooded.
Yeah, yeah, and Dr. Zen points out this is another point, but Dr. Zen pointed out that in his book that the Irish women, one of the reasons, one of the reasons why quote unquote whites were allowed to have supervisory positions over foundational Black Americans, a trend that exists in 2025, mind you, was because those Irish women in Georgia, in the Georgia corporation, would get drunk and say, "You know what? I don't want an Irish man. I want me a brother." So everything, everything really goes back to us. Jobs and status was given to whites over foundational Black Americans because the Irish women were choosing Black American men, and the dominant society couldn't stand seeing Irish women making babies with them brothers.
Now, are there any Irish lasses on the stage that want to come up and refute these beer guzzling charges? Anybody?
And if you come up, you better have some evidence to back up your point.
Don't bring any beer.
But you
Hey,
know
Mr.
what?
Freedom. Hey, Mr. Freedom, what's up?
Just hearing crickets because they know it's the truth. They're always projecting. How you doing on this beautiful day, my beautiful black people? What a great way to start the weekend. And for 7, damn, you was on 10. I was like, man, I gotta follow this. You are incredible.
I know. Seven, you better talk
She
more.
didn't even breathe. Oh my
Fire up
god.
this room.
Yeah, I definitely do got to come in more because I always listen to y'all. I love a good intellectual space, always conversing with Black people, educating themselves and some more.
Well, you're amazing. Thank you so much. I thank you, Professor and Sister Wani. I like this space, and I posted something in Purple Pill. I like to proceed with a little bit of thought uh, that you made me think of as I was listening. And I want y'all to see. I gave you a Google link, so the AI might sound different, but I'm gonna read you what AI said about invasive species. Okay, that's the first thing I thought of when I read the title of the room. Okay, to answer the question: should immigrants be allowed to change the culture of the host country? Check this out: kudzu, 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 an invasive vine native to East Asia, is known as the vine that ate the South. Mm. Due to its rapid growth and ability
Facts.
to smother native plants and trees, impacting ecosystems and agriculture in the southeastern United States. So, a more detailed look, it says kudzu is fast growing, just popping out babies like popcorn. You know how they got those stereotypes. Climbing the vine, um, that can quickly cover trees, shrubs, and other vegetation, blocking the sunlight and leading to the death of native plants. All these shower posses. I'm learning about all these different gangs. I didn't know that existed. That they brought all that debauchery and violence, right? All right. So it was introduced to the United States in 1876 as an ornamental plant, right? And for soil erosion control. So it's brought in to say, hey, we need people to build. We got all these jobs. We just have so many vacancies. Haven't you heard that the last 10 years? Oh, there's just so many vacancies. There's so many jobs. Oh, we need the B1 HB1 visas. We just can't find any good people here in America, right? So for soil erosion, and quickly became an invasive species. So it outcompetes the native plants. But check this out: it's not that they're better. What they do is they reduce the vegetation, reduce the habitat, and they can have an economic effect. We're still talking about kudzu. It says it can damage infrastructure. Look at all these terribly built homes. I used to build homes, and I know how they were before all of the influx came in. Back when I was building homes in 2000, about 2008, going up to about 2014 when I stopped. You had to watch them and look over their shoulders because they cut corners and was on bullshit the whole time as a construction manager. Um, and they reduced the value of property, but in this sense, they have actually caused the planes to fall out the sky. All of your products that used to be well made here in America, you got NAFTA and CAFTA, all of the jobs sent over to their homelands, and then they come over here and then build shit poorly. You know what I mean? And reducing the value of our lives. They're overinflating the economy, is a correction happening now, but they're reducing the value of our lives, and sometimes wanting to take it over by bringing the gangs. So I wanted to mention that, and then lastly, the way that you I'm gonna post this as well. The way that you actually deal with, I search how to prevent invasive species. Now check this out. So of course, this is what's happening right now. It says to prevent invasive species from entering the country, implement robust border controls. Thank you, Trump. Thank you for FBA's not falling for the Democrat okey doke, including inspecting imported goods and materials. Educate the public about responsible travel and recreational activities. But basically, it's just saying, look, prevent these filthy animals, some of them, not all, but some of them, from bringing that degenerate shit over here where they couldn't build up their own countries, and they're killing each other and they're treating their women and their children like crap. And they think that they can just drop that in here and really just, with the hate of America, steal it all back to their countries. Nah, we're not going to have that happen. And do it in our neighborhoods. No. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and thank you for that contribution. Dr. Howard Zinn identifies something very interesting about immigrants and the two party system. Dr. Zinn says on page 266 again, he says, as the immigrants, we'll talk about them in a minute, became naturalized citizens, they were brought into the American two party system and invited to be loyal to one party or the other, right? Dr. Zen further says when American citizens of foreign birth refuse to ally themselves with the Republican Party, they make war upon their own welfare. So basically, the immigrants came over here and were given free reign, basically in diametric opposition to foundational Black Americans. But they kind of stood away from the Republican Party. Why? And a quick disclaimer: I'm not political. I'm just a scholar. But according to Dr. Howard Zinn, quote, the Republican Party stands for all that the people fight for in the old world. It's a champion of freedom, progress, order, and law, and it is a steadfast foe of monarchical class rule. Right? That makes perfect sense, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because foreigners, the Irish, I aligned themselves with the Democratic Party because they wanted their chance at being kings and queens. The Democratic Party has always been in diametric opposition to foundational Black Americans. There were few spurts of time where Black people were Republicans, and we forget to remember that. Matter of fact, some people argued that the a lot of scholars, including Dr. Howard Zinn, argued that one of the best times for foundational Black Americans was Reconstruction, which was under the leadership of a very happy drunk named Ulysses S. Grant, president. Under the Reconstruction, Black women created the public school system. And keep in mind, under Reconstruction, we had neighborhoods like Greenwood, Tulsa. We had Black Wall Street because, and I'm not saying any party is perfect. According to Dr. Zinn, Howard Zinn, the Republican Party was a champion of freedom, progress, order, and law. So under the law, Black Americans were considered, got the 13th Amendment and had freedom, and we were taking advantage of the legal system. In conclusion, the Democratic Party was a party of immigrants, and immigrants were in diametric opposition to Black people. Go ahead, Seven.
I'm so glad that you hit on that, Professor, because I speak on that point specifically in regards because I get political every now and then, Professor. I ain't gonna lie, I do. But when I do get political in regards to that aspect, I have always preached about the Reconstruction era in regards to the Negro Republican Party that we have founded within this country. This started up in Kentucky. This is all of our southern states coming together where we said we were going to implement ourselves at a local, state, and even federal level to implement policies that are aligned with the Republican Party to be beneficial, which is why you recognize during this Reconstruction era, and we had this party. This is why we have things like Greenwood and Black Wall Street and Tulsa, because we were able to have this on a more bigger scale than what we know it to be now, because we had so many hands and feet involved. We're trying to make sure that we were heard on a higher scale as well.
Yep. Yep. No cap. Go ahead, guy goes. Guy goes golfing. What's on your mind?
Oh, my bad, man. I was just listening. I did fat fingered it.
Oh well, since you fat think.
You fat fingered it. Fat fingered it. I gotta use that.
Yeah, give me a fat finger comment. Should immigrants be allowed to change the culture of America? What do you
I
think?
don't think so.
Why not?
Why are you trying to make the place you're moving to the place you left behind?
Oh, hello. It wasn't working there. It ain't gonna work here. Yeah. Hey, enough said. Point taken, bro. We're gonna go ahead to Uncle Elroy. What are your thoughts?
Hey, what's up? Can y'all hear me good? I
Yeah,
got
yeah, you're a little muffled, but I can hear you.
yeah, no, I'm driving anyway. Blow that ears up. But it depends if there's a precedent or not, because the whole concept of immigration is basically salvage, or I'm sorry, what's the word I'm looking for? Seeking asylum, meaning wherever you're staying at is so bad or inhumane, you're seeking to go get hosted by another country that has better laws for humanity and things like that. So no, you shouldn't be able to bring the things that ruined your life in another country into a new one. You're
Yeah.
supposed to incorporate the country you come to.
Preach. Y'all heard?
Not say that, bro.
Did
Sorry, go
y'all
ahead.
hear? Let me interject right quick, Uncle Elroy. Did y'all hear what he just said?
Hmm.
That's it right there. You shouldn't be able. You're coming here because the situation you was in was fucked up. Simply put, and you shouldn't be allowed to bring your fucked up ideology here. And that's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. Is you have people coming over here like Luke, bringing his fucked up ideology to our kids and fucking up our country.
Absolutely.
Doctor
And
Howard,
it's all,
go ahead, land
I'm
your
sorry.
plane.
No, my bad. It's always disguised as, what's the word I'm looking for? Inclusiveness and equality. Like, oh, let's include them. There's different people, different cultures. But really, what you're doing is excluding your own roots when you include others. And if you look at, like, let's say, Christianity was big in America in the beginning, right? It was used to make the Constitution, or at least as a foundation. As we started including more cultures, we kicked Christianity out of the schools. That's fine. We're diverse. But now we celebrate all these other religions and frown on the one that is from our foundation. You know what I mean? And it's kind of funny how that works. How can you include when you kick out?
That's the whole thing. Like I said, I'm not even considered a Christian, and I feel offended with
Hmm.
what they've done with Christianity because I'm
Yeah.
culturally Christian. So
Yeah.
why do I have to talk about all these other religions?
Ramadans, this and that. I know
Right.
teachers
I
that got
mean,
reprimanded for having to put their Bible away that they read during lunch break and things like that. Like what? That's
right.
their lunch break. Sorry. I'm a playing man. I'm gonna leave. Thank y'all.
No, I fully agree that doesn't make any sense. If you want to say, "Hey, we don't want religion in schools," great. But you have religions in schools. You just don't have Christianity in there. That's frowned upon in a place that's a majority Christian country. So, like I said, if you want to do these other things, you need to go back to where you came from and then you can practice your religion the way you want to. But when I was thinking of this room, I was actually thinking of a whole nother group of people. And those are the people that were in Germany who set up shop and decided to create bohemian enclaves and do sex change operations and have the counterculture and have Marxism and rail against what Germans were doing and have all kinds of issues with their host country. They really wanted to do it their way
Wani,
in someone else's
Wani,
country.
that's synchronicity. When you said that, I was reading an article in Dr. Howard Zinn's in the same scholarship that Dr. Zinn talks about how the working class was fragmented. In other words, let me say it in plain English. How the working class got fucked up. Dr. Howard Zinn says how the immigration of different ethnic groups contributed to the fragmentation of the working class, how conflicts developed amongst groups facing the same difficult conditions is shown in an article in the Bohemian newspaper. It's called the Svarnost of February 27th, 1880. A petition of 258 parents and guardians at the Throop School in New York, signed by over half the taxpayers of the school district, said the petitioners have just as much right to request the teaching of Bohemian as the German citizens have the right have taught in public schools. In opposition to this, Mr. Volk claims that there's a great deal of difference between the Germans and the Bohemians. In other words, they are superior. Wani, there goes the Germans fucking up the school system. Did you know that?
Oh no, you got to send me some more stuff on. They are all over the place.
You
It's
know,
And
and
called the
plus,
this
the
this
Prussia model, the Prussia education model. You know about that, Professor? That's what creates the mindless drone, where we used to be super creative, and you look at certain technology and stuff that we have, it makes so much sense. It's logical, and now it's planned obsolescence. But I'm so glad you said that. Both of y'all, Wani and the Professor. I want to say this real quick. When people come over here, I used to make some deliveries, so I used to go to some of their restaurants, and some of the smelly shit that you be delivering on certain holidays. You know what I sent you, Professor? They be doing these rituals, okay? During full moons and blood moons and silver moons
Uh
and all
oh.
that kind
You
of
said
stuff,
the
and
moon.
they be bringing and killing all kinds of weird animals and doing all kinds of. I'm like, what is this nasty? How can you eat this? They bring that stuff from their lands, and that brings a spiritual heaviness, and it weighs us down. When I came to Atlanta from Alabama, from Tuskegee, Alabama, to Atlanta in '95, it felt like gold. It felt like the sun just kissed your skin, and it felt good. It was really the Black Mecca back then, and I loved it. It was great. It was some of my best memories that I had besides living on a farm in Alabama. But it feels different. I felt you when you was talking about all these foreigners in different places in Atlanta. It feel different. They changed the spirit and the energy, and they brought those spirit rituals and their demon gods and all that stuff with them too.
I believe that. I've been telling Wani that, I grew up in Birmingham. Birmingham's well, if is it 100 miles from Atlanta, but the temperature it's fucking freezing. Like it's a haze, spiritual coldness, and people say when demons. Some of my religious scholars, theologian friends say when demons get into an area, it's a trope on movies too. When demons come, it gets cold. Atlanta's freezing cold, man. Something spiritually wrong about this place. But what Wani brought to my attention some shit I didn't know. We're gonna talk about it in a space coming up real soon. What Wani taught me is German. A lot of the evil in the world goes back to Germanic tribes. We've talked about this before. But Wani taught me that. Did y'all know that all fucking narcotics, cocaine, heroin, what am I leaving out, Wani?
let me go look them up.
Meth,
It's a
amphetamine,
hot mess.
it came from the Germanic people created all the drugs. They've created all the drugs. They created
Roaches.
roaches. Damn, I didn't even think about that. German cockroaches. Holy shit.
They created roaches.
Yeah, as a form of warfare
Oh
Oh,
no.
to
I didn't
spread
know that.
disease. Yeah.
I'm really mad now.
You know what? This is really making so much more sense to me, y'all. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because I just literally came across a stat the other night talking about how the biggest ethnic group here in America is German people. So it's very interesting to even think about the structure that's set up here, what's being implemented is followed by these people even here. It's so tickling now.
I mean, you have to
Now,
remember Benjamin Franklin hated the Germans. He despised them even immigrating here.
yeah, I noticed that, and now I'm seeing why. There's a whole lot, and we have the pieces. We could put it together in another room because it's kind of a very interesting puzzle.
Yes.
So, the German soldiers were given stimulants, mostly stimulants issued by the military, but German chemists, or I'm going to say chemists living in Germany, They isolated cocaine and morphine, and they synthesized heroin, methadone, amphetamines, barbiturates, oxycodone, and ecstasy. And they actually developed fentanyl. So they're responsible for all of these very, very hard drugs. And they always say it's like oh, we just invented this one to um, because it was less addictive than that. They literally thought these others that I just named were less addictive than the first batch that they put out, but they're all addictive. So none of them are not addictive,
I I
but they just kept right on
I have an
trying.
aunt who raised me. My best friend. She was a first black nurse practitioner in Alabama. I remember the day she hurt her back, and this is in the '90s, early '90s. There was a new drug called oxycontin, and she didn't take drugs, but that the doctor gave her the oxycontin because they said it was non-addict. Can you believe that shit? They
Yep.
told, and it ended up killing her. But but German the
But how did they say it's not addictive? How long does it take for you to discover something's addictive? It doesn't take a long trial of of trying it, so they're being deliberately no good
yeah,
with that. Come on.
it was a goddamn lie. My auntie, bless God rest her soul, was addicted to that shit in a week. Yes,
That's right. You know immediately.
are these people trying to destroy the world? What I'm trying to say,
Yes.
yeah, what I'm identifying, ladies and gentlemen, over the last couple of months is Germanic people have invented these ideologies that are destroying the fucking planet. And what Mr. Freedom just brought up was very fascinating. I teach a section on ancient history, and my students and I we're going over Babylon. You know, the people who built the Tower of Babel, and it collapsed, and the pinnacle of evil. Well, the Babylonians worshipped a god called Sin. Believe it or not, the god's name was Sin AI. Now that's a whole nother subject if you want to get into AI, but I'm not touching that today. But you know what Sin AI? Sin AI was the moon god. So I'm wondering if Mr. Freedom, if we looking at some Babylonian shit.
It's an interesting thing. I always remember the back and forth that you and Macau had, and I agree with both of you. I know where Macau is going with that because we the way we are, we write the end of the book and we work our way backwards. That's how powerful we are and how powerful our God is. Um, but so we're gonna be okay in the end. That's I just want to let you know that, and that's where Mikhail is coming from. But at the same time, that's what I said. You got to make a choice, though. You got to make a choice, and I think what to me, what my ancestors are telling me is you got to get closer to nature. You got to be diametrically opposed to that sin AI that's coming in.
Yes, and man, let's get deep for a minute. He said nature. The Egyptians called it netter. So let me tell you some science. I'm not woo woo. I'm talking fucking science. Everybody sitting on this panel right now. Guess what you're made out of, ladies and gentlemen? You're made out of light, and I'm gonna prove it. What do you eat? You eat meat or you eat plants? Well, let's say you just eat meat. Okay. The cow that you eat eats grass. What is grass made out of? Grass is made out of light. Photosynthesis. Where does it get light from? The sun? Father, Son, Holy Ghost. Is it SON or SUN? Are we being deceived? I'm going to leave that alone. What's the opposite of the sun? The moon. Y'all see where the fuck I'm going? The sun is
Come on, Professor.
the sun is the creator of light. Out of darkness comes light. The moon has no light. It steals its light from the sun and has a false light. Hell, a professor once told me Lucifer stood for a little light of nothingness. We're dealing with something spiritual. That's what we're dealing with. And all fingers point to the Germanic people, but I'm going to shut my mouth before I get myself in trouble.
You
Professor, oh, go
also,
ahead. My bad, Wani. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you also highlighted the fact that that is why eating cats and dogs is frowned upon because humans do better when they eat herbivore animals, not animals that are carnivorous. That's why it's frowned upon and it's not healthy. Even lions will kill you, but they don't really want to eat you. You're like, you're not good to them. But they like, I bet you a lion would want to eat me.
Because you eat
Because I'm a
plants.
vegan. Yep, a lion would eat my butt, but he might not. I've seen them kill people and not eat them, and they don't eat them because they eat meat. They like animals like wildebeest, gazelles, anything that eats meat. They don't want to eat a hyena. Okay? They don't want that. They don't want to eat each other. They'll go over and kill a cheetah cub because they don't want that cheetah cub to compete with their cubs, which is very sad. But they're not eating the cheetah cub. Okay. So they know what they're doing. Unfortunately, human beings, oh, some of them don't know what they're doing, and they're running around eating animals that eat meat, which is not a good quality of meat for a human being to eat.
You're getting away from light when you're getting further and further away from light when you eat an animal that eats meat. You're getting further and further. The energy process gets further and further away from that light that you're made out of. And nature, like you said, Wani, and like you also said, Mr. Freedom, is you're going towards darkness. And these people, let me identify another weaponized thing that comes from Germanic people. This goddamn food pyramid, if those of you old enough to remember it, that shit said that we were supposed to eat more meat and bread than plants. That don't even make any goddamn sense.
Because they sell, because this country sells meat and milk and wheat. They're selling you what they grow. That's why the pyramid looked the way it does.
That's
I remember that pyramid too. The big platform was always red at the bottom. It was always talking about that needed to be the meats and the grains and stuff like that.
Mhm. They would have put cigarettes on that thing if we weren't looking at them side-eyed.
Hey,
Okay.
no cap. My grandmama, when she got rejected from Howard University for being not being light enough, she was Honey Brown. She had a nervous breakdown and went to the doctor, and the fucking doctor prescribed her cigarettes to calm her nerves. These people are insane. Why are we following these people around? Why are they the standard of intelligence when they're doing stuff that's getting us fucking killed? Wake up, people.
Yeah, they're definitely a death cult at this point.
Yeah, that's what Dr. John Henry Clark
So,
said.
should I describe the three waves of Germanic
Come on
oppression?
with it, Wani.
We're actually in a fourth wave, in my opinion, which I'm willing to debate. The first Germanic invasion was against Rome, right? And they toppled Rome. And then the second Germanic invasion was kind of not an invasion, they just shifted from their Roman conquest and propped up a bunch of castles all over Europe, and they made everybody a serf, set up these feudalist states. Then that wasn't good enough. They went out and colonized everybody all over the world on every speck of land. Of course, they own the sky, the sea, the woods. You can't do anything. You need a hunting license and a fishing license. You can't use the earth anymore. They own everything on earth. Um, then that wasn't enough colonization. They did another wave with Nazism. So it wasn't good enough just to be Germanic. You had to be an Aryan, which doesn't exist. But Indo Aryans are gypsies and other types of people that are not pure white, but they said Aryans were pure white because they didn't know what they were talking about. That was the third wave. Now, the fourth wave, because they can't colonize us again, and they can't set up new castles and beat people down, and they can't do the Aryan thing anymore. So now they're doing a psychological beat down on us. And that's why we're getting all of these weird programs and drugs and everything and commercials to twist our minds around. They're trying to psychologically colonize us. I mean, They just won't stop. And they have joined in, the Jewish people have joined in. Let me just read off some of the media that were controlled because, if you say things about Jewish people, they go, oh, no, you're lying, you're exaggerating. But they were once obviously the focus of propaganda. The Nazis, did lots of propaganda against them, but they bounced back. So these two people brought their little fight over here, and they're acting out something fierce in other people's countries, bringing their own ideologies into the country, along with a whole lot of very addictive drugs and very bad counterculture, which was being fought against over in Germany. But they came over here and they founded or purchased CBS, NBC, Warner Brothers, Paramount Pictures, Metro Golden, Columbia Pictures, Universal Pictures, 20th Century Fox, ABC, and the New York Times. So if you don't think they have influence, because these are the modes of influence to get you to do what they want you to do. And they have
Preach.
definitely used these modes, uh, not to mention the nephew of Sigmund Freud, who was a big time advertiser. He was a spin doctor, and that's why he had this Torches of Freedom campaign to get women to smoke. He was like, oh, smoke these cigarettes. And these cigarettes were not just on the commercial, they were all through the movies of the day. Like I said, it's a whole system. It is a whole system to make you do what they want. They want you to smoke cigarettes. This country sells tobacco. Never forget what this country is selling is what they're going to push and try to get you to consume, whether you like it or not. So they're going to tell you milk is good for you. I remember they had some study talking about wine is good for you, and it was like they were just talking about the benefits of the grapes, but then when you looked at the study, it was prepared by the wine council. Why
Wow.
would I? And now these women over in some of these places that are very popular for producing wine, they make a bunch of fetal alcohol fetuses.
Wow.
They just uh, they won't stop. And their attitude is I deserve to drink and being pregnant isn't going to stop me. So they just keep pumping out children with issues, and they're backed up by this propaganda that says, hey, that it's okay to drink, don't worry about it, they're being too hard on you. So they're just pumping out developmentally disabled people actually have certain looks about them because their cultures drink too much and don't stop drinking when they're pregnant. They're basically alcoholics.
Wani, you just said something so powerful. I'm trained as a historian, ancient world history historian, to look for symbolism. Remember, Jung wrote "Man and His Symbols." You mentioned. Could you tell me more about a torch? You said something. Somebody had the what? You said something about a torch.
Yeah, Torches of Freedom campaign to get women to smoke. It was like, hey, smoke this cigarette and you'll be a free um, feminist, you're a modern woman, uh, you know, you'll be cool basically. Because people were smoking, but they were kind of hiding it. It was kind of considered crude to smoke.
Hmm.
That's going to decrease tobacco sales. If you're ashamed to smoke and you're hiding behind the building smoking, you're not going to smoke as much. But if they make it cool and you can just be really a sexy diva on a movie, smoking your cigarette and talking smack, then all of a sudden it's cool to smoke and you're going to be smoking more cigarettes, aren't you?
Well, these folks make death look like a choice of freedom. We could say the same people, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Wani, introduced abortion as a choice, as freedom, right? But let's talk about that torch. That torch is symbolic. Look at the story of Prometheus. Prometheus brought fire in a tube that gave mankind enlightenment. You want to know who Prometheus was? Prometheus was Lucifer. Hello. And a torch is the sign thereof. The Statue of Liberty was sent over here by the French to apologize for the slave trade. It was a black woman. She still has a chain on her foot to show her enslavement. These same people intercepted the Statue of Liberty. And redesigned her face to look like somebody I may have mentioned a minute ago with a crown of on, kind of like a, well, I'll leave that alone. But what is the statue? What was put into the hand of the Statue of Liberty? A torch to represent fire in a tube, to represent Prometheus, to represent Lucifer. What is Latin? What does luce mean in Latin? It means light. Fur means bearer thereof. Lucifer means bearer of the light or bearer of the torch. The Statue of Liberty got a fucking torch in her hand. Ladies and gentlemen, where are we? Are we in Babylon? I'm just saying.
Well, we can make it really plain. Um, we're human plants, and a lot of us, when you go back far enough, and this is even in some really ancient records, but we were vegan, okay. But these people, their sun is fire because they're literally, and you see it in everything. That's why we got mystery meats now, and Beyond Meat and Unbelievable Meat. Um, Fire is their god because they're cannibals and they're carnivores. We'll just break it down just that simple.
Yeah, it's something to think about. This weekend, me and the old lady went and we went and got some food we shouldn't have got. A bunch of meat, and
Why?
man, this is place in Atlanta, and
You guys are acting up.
we being so fucking bad. But we went to this place, and the shit was bomb. It was a soul food joint. We eating meat, and then all of a sudden, my motherfucker, that shit was good. First thing we did was go to sleep immediately, which is atypical. And then we woke up the next day, Sunday, in a bad mood and shit. I was like, motherfucker, am I irritable for? And well, anyway, long story short, we went to this place in Vinings called it's like Poke Bowl Lab or something. It's like a new place. And we ate there. We ate some real fresh vegetables like edamame, which is mostly vegetables with a little salmon on it. And instantaneously my mood changed. I became like jovial, happy, I was energized. And I was like, it was that goddamn food we just ate. We ate a bunch of processed meat and a bunch of grease, and we're not supposed to eat that. It made me angry. The fucking food made me angry. I think back to one of my friends, my biology professor friends. She said that when we're eating all these cows, and this is gonna be hard to hear because I love animals, but cows on being processed, they know they're gonna die, so they like fucking freak out. I seen a video as far as I could watch. I had to turn it
Oh
off.
no, we can't talk
Oh,
about it
that's
anymore.
stress.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
they
It's
know.
Like
cortisol.
cows,
Yes.
sorry.
Yeah, and Nikki, this is your area of expertise. Maybe you can tell me what chemical they release when they're scared.
Adrenaline,
No, yeah,
Well,
cortisol too.
my
cortisol.
biology professor, yes, make you fat, but my biology professor friend said when you're eating that meat off of a cow that was scared half to fucking death, you're eating that fear and you're eating that anger and aggression, which is why we're so fucking angry and aggressive. We're not supposed to
What
eat none of
about
that shit.
hunters? What about like ancient hunters? Weren't they chasing animals around and the animal was scared?
Well, with hunters, a good hunt. That's a good question, Wani. A good hunter, from what I read, and Joe Rogan talks about this a lot. A good hunter will take an animal out, like the Native Americans would hit a deer right in the heart with that arrow. The deer didn't even know it hit it, and it's dead. The meat we eat sits in fucking in jail for 8 months. You know they talking to each other saying, "Man, you know we gonna die." You know they like on death row and shit. They got time to think about it, and we're eating all that.
No.
Yeah, yeah, I'm trying to get. I might turn vegan in a minute, man. I'm just saying.
Just start with vegetable. I mean, like, okay, I'll train you guys how to do it.
I'm listening. Seven. We're gonna go to seven. Miss Stacy, and then Uncle Roy. What's up, seven?
No, I was just gonna say everything that y'all was saying, talking about the process of how we kill our animals and stuff like that. They always talk about that, saying like when you're killing an animal underneath stress, you're usually taking that in, and especially when we talking about the animals that people love to consume when they don't have that grass to meat your ratio, it's always meat to meat. So just imagine those double whammies that a lot of people get hit with when you're eating something that wasn't even eating something that was like a herbivore diet and stuff like that, and then you're
Right.
eating that meat. Yeah, it's just gonna be a lot to take in for your body. But
Right.
my hand was up two things. So one, Professor, it was so funny when you were talking about the Statue of Liberty scenario because I just saw the interview of a scholar who went up in there and she was talking about how her and her brother kept pressing the people who are allegedly like the people who like, do the touring things and stuff like that. She said she kept pressing them about specifically acknowledging that they had switched out the torch for the chains and things of that nature and they were so unaware. So how you mentioned earlier saying that a wise man once told you the best way to hide something is just in plain sight. She and her brother directed them downstairs in the basement of the statue to where there was a scroll that actually acknowledged the information of how they said they switched out the torch for the chains and stuff like that. So I just thought that that was a great thing to talk about because I just seen that interview of how she was talking about they hid that in plain sight and wasn't even acknowledging that because they will always acknowledge the chains on the feet, but they would never acknowledge the chains that got switched out in the hands. And my third point was to say to what Miss Spot said was that, man, the education of our medical field sometimes can be very skewed. Once I figured out that these people had psychologists describing our people as insane during that, I want to say I'm pronouncing it as in the drape, how you say the drape time? I don't want to mispronounce it.
Yeah,
I
I
want,
know
Draconian,
what it is. I know
yes,
what you're
the
Drake
one when
talking
Tonya, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
Dracomania.
exactly. Yes, exactly. That one I was talking. Y'all know what I'm talking about. So yeah, once I figured out that they were trying to psychologically evaluate us and even go as far as trying to say they had treatments for even that type of psychological care, I already knew from that point on I was going to have to be opening a plenty and a plethora of doors about how our people could have got walked down a wrong road of trying to properly help ourselves in regards to health.
Well, interestingly enough, seven. That and the Statue of Liberty is such a metaphor for our space. Should immigrants be allowed to change the culture of our host country? The Statue of Liberty, like I said, and I wrote a book on it. I put it in Jumbotron. I have a whole chapter on that shit. The Statue of Liberty was written I think his name Edward Luba. I forget he has a French last name, but it was the Statue of Liberty was an apology to black women for the slave trade. And so the Statue of Liberty was a symbol of I'm sorry for slavery. And some lady of the lineage me and Wani are talking about wrote that goddamn poem that made it about Europeans. So they changed the culture of the host goddamn country.
Yes, they did. Let me say what the Statue of Liberty was supposed to be a tribute to winning the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. The chains around the feet symbolize freedom for Black Americans. But some random Sephardic person from two different places uh, came over here and decided that it should be about welcoming immigrants. And she opened up a whole bunch of charitable organizations to get immigrants, I guess, assimilated or to train them. They basically didn't speak English. So she was trying to train them and give them trades and lessons and things like that. So she had that charity, and then she wrote a poem. Now, she died before, I think, before the poem was ever put on a plaque, but she had another woman running around advocating for this. How are these people coming into another country with a huge statue to symbolize two major things in the country? And they just come in and bum rush and make it about welcoming immigrants. How did they do that? Why were they allowed to do that? Why did the dominant society just throw all the men who died in the Civil War under the bus? Okay, they don't like us. Okay, fine, granted. They want to erase our history. But why did you erase the Civil War tribute? That's the part that I don't understand. Men died for that. And you just threw it away to let somebody talk about welcoming immigrants. And it stands today as something to welcome immigrants. And they don't even know about the original intent.
Yeah, these people, if I can get deep for a second, know ancient history, and allegedly these people broke into the hall. What's it, the Mr. Freedom? What's it called? It was allegedly up under the Sphinx, the Hall of Records, or
Hall of Alexandria.
All of them menting.
yeah,
Oh,
it was a bunch. It's a couple of them that nobody
there's
wants to.
different ones.
One of them was the Library of Alexandria, but I don't want to say that
Yeah.
because it was.
Not the Akashic record. That's somewhere
I
else
think
in
that may
space.
be it, but the
No, that's not physical.
No,
no, not the acoustic
that's our.
records. The God
mm,
dang it, I forget the
I
name of
can't
it.
remember.
Want me to try to look it up?
Yes, but it was a records left by an ancient group that had. You can get remnants of it now if you.
You mean the Sumerian text?
No, I can't. It's not. It's my memory's been fucking up lately, but I'll think of it in a minute. But you can get remnants of it from
Hall of Records.
Holler Records.
It says
Holler
Hall of
Records. There you
Records.
go.
It's so easy. We forgot
I
it.
thought, oh,
Holler Records. There you go. Well, the records of there are seven. God dang it! I got to go get my book. But like basically metaphysical. We're dealing with metaphysics. You're dealing with avoiding karma, and one way to avoid karma, like everything, Newton's second, every action has an opposite equal reaction. You do something to somebody, some shit coming back to you. These people are clever. The way they get away with that, and I'm paraphrasing, is by putting it in your is like hiding it in plain sight, putting it in your face, like, see, I told them. But it's treachery, it's psychological warfare, with the whole torch thing. Is putting it's all put in your face. You just don't know what you're looking at. You know what I'm saying?
We don't know all the symbols. That's correct.
Mankind and its Symbols. Get that book by Carl Gustav Jung. He's telling you a lot of shit. But I wanted to say, Dr. Laila Africa took that a step further. Laila was a psychological warfare officer in the military, and he talked about food. Laila said, Dr. Marimba Ani once said that God creates in pairs, male, female, positive and negative. It's the way of the universe. So these people have weaponized our goddamn food. Wani was bringing up drugs, cocaine. They isolate stuff. They take away the male female aspect to make it more intense. Sugar. Sugar has two different elements, and they separate sugar to create bleach sugar. I was in Africa, and in Ghana, it's illegal to have bleach sugar, like unnatural sugar. And I was drinking sodas, and I didn't get headaches. I nothing hurt. I come over here, I drink a Coca Cola and get a fucking headache. Basically, Laila said that when they bleach the sugar, and Laila said they use pig's blood to bleach it. But I
Why?
don't know. I'm not a chemist.
That's weird.
But anyway, just separating and isolating stuff, taking it out of its natural form of and it fucking gives you diabetes. What I'm trying to say in brief, ladies and gentlemen, is a lot of things are weaponized that we don't realize as weapon.
It
Weaponized.
does
Go ahead.
say it does say bone char is used to process sugar. That's very strange.
Sound like witchcraft, don't it?
I don't eat sugar at all.
Hey, I just posted something down in the purple pill, and then I'll shut up after this. But this is just dovetails so well in the conversation. I looked up what constellations, ley line, divination, geomancy pass over Germany. And if you look at it, you'll see it's the Big Dipper, right? And that's actually where they get their interpretation for the swastika, okay?
Mm.
Um, and the Dog Star are the two most prominent ones. Now, if you check out all cliches about dogs, they do everything reverse. That's where they get God from. Dog is there, that's what they worship. They don't just have sex with it for a reason to call them their fur babies. They really, okay. But what I'm
Wow.
saying is the stardust, the cosmic solar rays, and the comets, everything that actually fertilizes and falls on the soil under your feet changes the constitution of your alimentarius canal, basically the from your mouth to your sphincter, what you eat. So those are different types of fire or sun or solar influences, and especially with Native Americans, they're pretty attuned to this, looking up at the stars. Um, and people know this when it comes to almanacs and farmers, different constellations, whether it's the vernal or the autumnal equinoxes, they influence different things that you can grow in certain soils and on certain um, uh, what do you call it, parallels, and above the equator, below the equator, and all of those different things. When you're watching the star map, you know where you are and what's happening on the earth. And so I want y'all to check that out real quick. But I think that's part of their psychosis, is they have that dog um, mentality, that dog eat dog, that that's their god, and it's a feeder of it cleans up corpses.
Wow. Well, I want to say one thing. We're gonna go to Miss Stacy. You mentioned a swastika. I had a student. She was from the Philippines, and she was Buddhist, and she blew my mind one year. It's a couple years ago. I was talking about the swastika, and I couldn't explain what it. The student, my undergrads were asking me, "What's a swastika?" What? And I was like, "Oh, dang, I don't know." And my Buddhist student was like, "Oh, that's the Ponzi symbol." And I was like, "Explain it." And she was like, "The swastika in its natural form is Ponzi. It means it's a stairway to nirvana. It's like steps you got to take to get to enlightenment, what we would call heaven or a menta." But she said, notice that their swastika, the Nazis, is turned backwards. So the Germans had a stairway not to heaven; their stairway went to hell. So we got to watch those symbols. The Germans knew what they were doing. They reversed the Ponzi symbol. They ain't,
Why are they going over there?
huh?
Why they decide to go to hell? What are they
Maybe
doing?
that's
They
maybe.
they messed up a whole lot of they butchered a lot of Eastern religion. I tell you that it doesn't make any sense. All the stuff they were done. Nazis saying that they're Aryan and saying that that's pure white when that's like the opposite of pure white. It's like on the darkest end of white.
But that's the whole thing about like the Satanist religion is backwards. Like I heard they read the Bible backwards. Like it's going backwards.
Oh
It's something
boy.
about, like I was saying earlier. The sun is a giver of all life. That's a fact. That's science. The Babylonians worshiped the moon. Opposites. Go ahead, Miss Stacy. What's on your mind?
Hey everybody. I was
Hey,
just
Stacy.
sitting
What's
here
up?
thinking of none, just got off work. Oh, I was gonna say, Professor, when you was talking about your memory, I was like, have you tried the intellectual power yet?
I got from yeah. I gotta get that.
Yeah,
You
that's
got to get
mine.
some nootropic.
Uh-huh, I have some. But what I was gonna say, it was a few things you guys were talking about that touched on. But first, in answer to the question, should immigrants be allowed to change the culture of the host country? Hell no. You guys are imposters. You don't belong here. Um, the German thing, I always think of it like, when they're okay, what did they want when Hitler was doing his thing, he wanted the blonde haired, blue eyed, and all that. Well, the term blue eyed devil, the white devil, it's fitting because, like you're just talking about worshiping, they're to me devil worshippers. I mean, they're like all the stuff you're talking about, the Germanic stuff, it's just crazy because when you think about the stuff that it's just evil. I mean, you think about the world. They say the world is lying in the hands of the wicked one, right? I mean, all the stuff we're going through. You keep asking, um, where are we right now? And you have a belief. There is a belief also that right now, uh, Satan is running the world. You know, and then you think of the Germanic takeover, like everything, like they're everywhere. As far as them colonizing everything and everybody. Another thing I always think about too, I was when in one of your other spaces where you had mentioned when we were talking about the immigrants, and it was always on my mind that I feel like I don't know if this is far fetched, but it almost feels like we're being hunted, and not in a way what by saying that, and I don't know if that's the right word to say, but when they all when they come over here, where do they go? They go into our neighborhood. They come into our neighborhoods and they take over, and it's like, um I don't know the word that I'm trying to think of, but like how they open up the stores here and they give each other jobs. They don't give us jobs, and that's all different immigrants of all nationalities. Whether this be the melanated ones or the white ones or whatever. Um, it's almost like they're trying to push us out of everything. And white folks, they don't want them there. They're like, nah, go on down there with them, with the black folk, take over and mess their stuff up. They're giving things, they're giving grants, they're giving loans, they're giving all the stuff that they can get to be successful and leapfrog over us. But we haven't given up. We're FBA, we're strong, and we're gonna do what we do. That's just what we do. And I love the fact that we're coming together right now. Another thing I wanted to mention too about the cigarettes you guys were talking about. I had a friend of mine, may she rest in peace. And she's much older. She was like, I was young in my 40s, she's in her 80s. And she was telling me that back when she was in school, when she was in college, they would have trucks or vans or something like that would come up there offering cigarettes to the kids, to the students. And and they would give out free cigarettes to all the students. And that was she told me that was how she started smoking. She said she didn't do a lot, but they would give each time one a couple of cigarettes. You just go up and you just get free cigarettes. So and then with the drugs,
Yeah, Dave Chappelle said that. He said he was like 16 walking through DC, or 14 or some shit, and somebody got
mhm.
him hooked on cigarettes. Gave him cigarettes. Ladies and gentlemen, Tariq Nasheed is on. We're gonna get one more. Let Stacy land her plane and get one more caller, and then we'll reconvene on Tariq's stage. But
Yeah, we can continue tomorrow.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
we will continue this tomorrow. But I did want to interject for those of you
I'm
that
gonna go
don't.
on the land right now. Thank you so much for letting me speak. I love you guys.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Love you too.
Thank you,
Uh,
Stacy.
thank you. So
Thank you, hon.
y'all brought up Hitler. I wanted to let y'all know because some of y'all probably don't know so much I could say, but according to, let's see who, John Michael Greer, Hitler, quote, Hitler dropped out of school in 1905. In 1907, he went to Vienna in hope of enrolling in the prestigious Vienna Academy of Art. He failed the entrance exam twice. However, unwilling to return home, he ended up on Vienna's mean streets, eking out a living as a postcard painter and a male prostitute. Hitler turned to a prostitute. Did y'all know that shit? And while he was a prostitute, Hitler met the occult. And in the
Was
occult,
he a top or bottom? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry.
Wani has theories, but while Hitler was a prostitute, he met the occult and did a spell, was invited to a satanic cult, and rose to power in a very short amount of time. Ladies and gentlemen, notice Nikki the God and Wani Spots Cash App in the Jumbotron. Show them love. If y'all want to purchase my scholarship, where I talk about the Statue of Liberty and tell you more about where it came from, and how it was co-opted. You can purchase my book on by putting $25 on Our Story Publications. Put your full address and full name on Our Story Publications, and your a book will come shortly. If you purchase the book this week, it'll go out in the next couple of days. I appreciate y'all. We're gonna continue this tomorrow. We'll,
Hey,
we'll
God
con-
bless.
Hey, can
oh
I
yeah,
say
we'll
one
continue.
thing though?
Yeah, go ahead
Y'all
quickly.
pray over y'all food. That's all I gotta say.
Hey, no cap. That's what my mama. That's my mom and them used to say.
Yeah.
We gonna meet back up on Tariq Nasheed's page. I will see y'all tomorrow where we will talk about Germans and what they created.
Right.
Nikki, you had any last words?
Have a good night, everyone.
All right, see y'all on Tariq's page. Make sure y'all come back tomorrow. Peace out.